Welcome to the Strengthen Leadership Podcast. I'm Chris Jones, and I'm the pastor of Hope Community Church. And today I want to talk to you about budgeting your emotions. We hear a lot of conversation about budgeting money, and some people are really good at it. To be honest with you, some people are horrible at it. A budget, as the famous Dave Ramsey would say, is just a way to tell your money what you want it to do. And if any of you have lived on a budget, you know that you're predetermining what you will spend money on, where every dime's going to go. And if you've ever lived free of a budget, then you're just spending money on whatever, whenever. There's really no direction for it. So I want to introduce the idea today of budgeting your emotions, of having a plan for your emotions, because emotions are funny. They're kind of like money. You don't get unlimited emotional energy. Nobody has unlimited money, and nobody has unlimited emotional energy. And so the problem is, just like money, there are unlimited things to spend your money on. And emotionally, there are unlimited things to spend your emotion on, unlimited circumstances, unlimited number of people that we could spend our emotions on. And so I want to lean in this for a couple minutes and help you kind of prioritize and define, predetermine what you will spend emotional energy on. So we have to understand that you have to prioritize some things. And you have to define that up front. And so what's going to be worth it? What's worth it to you to spend your emotions on? What's going to be worth it to be angry? What's going to be worth it to be sad or anxious? Or what's going to be worth it to be empathetic or sympathetic? What is worth it? And then what's not worth it? What would you define as just a waste of emotional energy? If this happens, it would be a waste of my time to be upset about it. Okay. So we have to do this prioritization. What is worth it? What's not worth it? And we get more detailed, and we start saying, okay, who and what will get my energy? I'm going to predetermine, just like a financial budget, who or what will get my energy. So we're going to predetermine where it's spent. And so I encourage you to sit down and write out what are the highest priorities in my life, people wise, circumstance wise. What are the highest priorities in my life? So for me, my relationship with God will be on the top priority, and then my relationship with my spouse, and then my relationship with my children, my work relationships, my friends. Or you might put friends before work, but you got to eat. And then acquaintances, strangers, it keeps going down the list. Okay. So those are the people, and I put them in that order because it's the most important way to spend your emotional energy. So think about it like this. If I'm so spent emotionally from work all the time, if work just saps all my emotional energy, I'm not talking about physical labor. I'm talking about you are just so torqued and worked up and anxious and mad all the time about work. Well, guess what? There's nothing left then to give to God. There's nothing left to give to your spouse. There's surely nothing left to give to your kids. And so what we're going to do is we're going to prioritize who gets what. So a lot of times you'll hear people, well, the first thing I do when I get up in the morning is I pray. Why? Because you haven't spent any energy yet. You haven't spent any emotions yet. You just woke up. And then you say, well, I put my spouse next because I can't spend all my emotional energy on my kids with nothing left for the relationship with my spouse. So I prioritize the relationship with my spouse because both of us together are raising our kids. And now that our kids are adults, both of us together are helping to guide our kids still and give them advice, all those type of things. Then I go to work. So I'm going to work, and I have I have an amount of energy that I can spend at work, and then I have an amount of energy that I can spend with extended family. And so what happens is once I prioritize these things, then I predetermine who gets it. Now that may sound very structured and rigid and all those things, but here's what I'm saying. That if I know I'm going to come home from work and I need to have some bandwidth with my kids, there's certain things at work I can't let upset me. I just can't do it. And so I get to determine that, whether it upsets me or not. It's not that I can't determine whether it happens, but I can determine whether it upsets me or how it affects me. So what we have to do is we have to quit spending emotional energy on things that don't have an impact. And so that's why we start out with a budget. I'm going to prioritize. I'm going to spend time. I'm going to spend spiritual energy. I'm going to spend emotional energy in my relationship with God. So I'm going to lean into that. And that is budget. That's top of the line budget. That's a non-negotiable. And then my spouse, or maybe you're single, but and I'm going to, I'm going to spend it. I'm going to prioritize this next thing. So for you, what would that next thing be? For me, it's my spouse. And so I'm going to determine that she has more impact than getting upset in traffic. So I'm not going to waste the energy there. I'm going to give it to her. And then my kids. And so I'm spending now on purpose, energy, emotions on things that bring impact, not things that don't have any return. For instance, how much emotional energy should you spend on other people's problems who seem to consistently always have problems? You can't invest more in other people's problems than they're willing to invest. So what we find is that then we get just tied up, emotional energy, we're just burning through emotions. We're worried about them. We're sick about them. We're upset about them. We get mad over it. And you find out you're the only one burning the energy. There's no impact there. How about, getting offended at work for people not pulling their fair share? Well, I can just realize that, you know what? Nothing's fair. And that person's going to act like they're going to act, and it's not going to change what I'm going to do. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to let them upset me. And how many of us get just unbelievably worked up about politics, and it's the 24/7 all the time now. And so we spend a ton of emotional energy on politics, and 99% of us are having no impact in politics. None whatsoever. But I'm burning all this emotional energy. I'm letting it get me angry. I'm letting it get me frustrated, anxious, scared, all these things. We watch the news incessantly, and the news is designed to keep you on edge. And so I'm burning energy there. Traffic is unbelievable. I don't care where you go now. Traffic is difficult. And what are people doing? They're burning emotional energy because somebody else cut them off, because some other guy shouldn't be in front of them. Who cares? Who cares? I have to wake up in the morning and determine beforehand, make a budget, decide before it happens what I'm going to be upset about, what I'm going to spend the energy on. And so when I do that, then I get to predetermine my responses. This is a shortcut in life. This is a shortcut in business that gives you bandwidth. I'm going to predetermine my responses to things. Somebody cuts me off. What am I going to do? He cut me off. We didn't wreck. Nothing happened. It's fine. It's fine. I go on to live another day. So I don't have to be upset about that. So with people, with circumstances, I get to pre-decide. Now listen, some of you say, well, I can't help the way I feel. True. Initially, I can't stop certain thoughts from coming into my head. And you may say, well, you can't control what you think about. You can't control the thoughts that pop in your head, but you can control what you think about. So the difference is I get this thought in my head. Well, I get to decide if I keep thinking about it or not. I get to decide if I'm going to keep stewing over it, if I'm going to let it make me anxious, if I'm going to let it make me mad. I get to decide whether that happens. And so often we're just reacting to everything. You're living life without a budget. You're just blowing money everywhere. But all of a sudden you get a budget, and when you go into Walmart, you got the budget's predetermined that you're not buying 4 gallons of ice cream. Okay, you know what? I'm not gonna get upset about that because I decided beforehand I'm not gonna buy 4 gallons of ice cream. So our emotions is a limited resource that we need to predetermine how we're gonna do it. So create the shortcut, create the hack before it's necessary. Don't wait until somebody cuts you off in traffic to decide how you're going to respond to it. No, say, I'm not giving that any emotional energy, because if I do that, then when I get home with my kids, I'm burned out. And my kids wonder why are you acting like that? I got cut off at work. I got cut off on the way home from work. And you have nothing then to offer them. Or I could say at the beginning of the day, I don't care who cuts me off. They can't make me mad. They can't upset me. I don't care who talks about me. I will not personalize that. I don't care what happens at work. I refuse to give the people that aren't going to bring a return my emotional energy. And so the idea that I predetermine how that's going to go. So the Bible's full of this. Think on things that are above, not on things that are this earth. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So Paul writes over and over and over again that we are responsible for what we think about. Think on these things, he says. So I want to challenge you. Now, some of you, including me, are good at covering things up as if you have a budget. And what I want to let you know is the cat will come out of the bag sooner or later. And so, the people that look like they're doing really well, they don't have a budget. They look like they're doing really well. And then 5 years in, you find out they were charging everything on a credit card. And now the house of cards is falling down and the secret's out. Don't do that emotionally. I see this all the time where people will look on the exterior like everything's fine, but they are recklessly spending emotional energy day after day, week after week, year after year. They're spending it. And then at some point in time, they can't cover it anymore. They can't walk in with a everything's okay. And what happens is they have a meltdown, a burnout, all these things that we already have seen. And that's because they're covering up reckless emotional spending. Just like covering up with a credit card. You have to manage where your emotions go. You have to manage who's worthy of receiving your emotions and what circumstances are worth receiving your emotions. Because if you recklessly spend it everywhere, you will run out sooner or later. And we want to be in this thing for the long haul. So as a leader, budget your emotions every day. I'm not saying be emotionless. I'm saying to predetermine what you're going to spend it on. That precious asset you have, predetermine what you're going to spend it on. This was Strengthened Leadership Podcast. I'm Chris Jones. It's good to be with you today. We'll see you back here next time.